A lot of things going on here at the local church. So we are 6 months in, which is crazy, today, right? Yeah, today from launch. 6 months in, and it's been an awesome process just for us, me and my wife Cassidy, our team, a learning experience. And it really feels like we're catching some traction and really starting to help people. And that's a good feeling to put work into it. So we had been believing for just direction, wisdom in moving forward. There has been everything from the right people in the right spots, right locations, all kinds of things. And I am happy to announce that starting next Tuesday night, the local church has a permanent building. Come on.
Now they always say congratulations.
I'm going to show you guys the map. Right here we have 7th and Elgin. This is where you get off of the highway, and this is where you get on, and boom, local church is right there. So we solidified that today. Words can't express the weight that was lifted. As my alarm went off at 6 a.m. this morning to come here and load in, I'm telling you, I'm excited for where we are headed. The fact that we have a building now that men's book studies, we're going to be meeting there. It's ours, so we can make it ours. It's not something that it comes in, and while the Mayo has been fantastic in all that they've done and just being here. And again, we chose the Mayo because we wanted somewhere that we could just say a landmark and people knew where it was, where you didn't have to explain the address and how to get there and things like that, especially with just launching. But it never felt like home because we're in and out every week. This will be us. So I'm very excited. I don't know what our hours are going to be and all that during the week, but just come hang out. There's people hanging out around there somewhere. I'm sure you can hear some awesome stories from the people hanging out around there. But no, we are right there off of Highway 75 and 51 where it splits. Right now, coming from the south on 51, you have to exit there. And it's at 7th Street exit. As soon as you leave the exit, boom, we're right there. So we are very, very excited for that. So next Tuesday, we will not be at the Mayo Hotel. We will be at it's currently called the Broadway, a wedding venue, and it is now ours. So very, very excited for that. Very excited for where it's headed. And again, just to make it ours and somewhere that we can call home and that we can, I want it to be a beacon of light or of hope for people when they're driving by to see the sign and know that that's a place that they can go, that they hit a hard moment, they know that they can go there, that we are going to be there for them. So, like I said, next Tuesday, we are going, and I'll tell you who is the most excited, other than myself, are the faithful 2 men in a truck that are Zach and Nikki and Josh and Evan. So, the text thread that we have is, most of the time I would say it's just gifts. Like, there's no actual words in the communications. Somehow, Zach fit in is it Owen Wilson? Is that who it was? Yeah, the wow, like 10 times today. And so, because of that, so we're excited about that. So we are going to be, and we're going to get this information out with address, all sorts of stuff. It will be bombarded on social media, but there will be different nights throughout the next week where we will be up there. The great thing is right now it is turnkey. We literally will move our stuff in, set up, and boom, we are done. So there's no remodel, it's perfect. So we are going to be up there just a couple nights this next week, just hanging out, praying over the building, spending time together, just getting stuff ready, because it feels like, again, the traction is starting to get caught and we're moving forward. So very, very, very excited about that. So next Tuesday, just a reminder, next Tuesday, first off, next Monday, men's book study will be at the local church. So cool to say that, by the way. And then next Tuesday night, we'll be there also. So wave to the Mayo, good riddance, blow it a kiss, do what you need to do. Throw up the peace sign and see ya. We are taking our own, so we're excited for that. Did I leave anything out, Cass, on that? Did I show my excitement through? She's like, make sure you're excited about that. I'm like, you have no idea how excited I am about that. But so we're very excited. Very excited to have our own building. So it's an interesting time in the Shear household right now. So my oldest, Charleston, who I'm sure if you're around here, you've seen her normally directly following church. She is running to the elevator to come up because she wants to dance to Bruno. Don't judge us that our kid calls Bruno Mars. Like, that's what she wants to listen to. I understand it's secular, but it's a good beat. So she wants to come up here, so you've seen her. So her third birthday. Cass had this idea that on Saturday, her birthday's Monday, Saturday, we were going to get her a Playhouse swing set. I don't know if anybody's put those together. If you haven't, don't. Literally, on the instructions, it said 3 people, 20 hours. 20 hours. So we started at 2 on Sunday, obviously, and we got most of it done. It's weird. They gave us there was a big box full of these extra pieces that don't go anywhere. I don't know why they would send us all those. But for her birthday, Cass wanted it on Monday morning. She wanted to come out to it. So we decided that about 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, we were going to put it together. I will say it's still standing. I'm not going to say that I was questioning that, because I wasn't. I'm very confident in my handiwork, but it's still standing. And we haven't had one of those famous Oklahoma straight winds yet, but still standing today. So it's got 2 slides, a bunch of things. So I'm just going to show you guys a video, because it's somehow, I don't know how, I communicated last week. I hate it because my mindset isn't to, when it comes to social media, I'm going to take a picture of this. I literally think right after it happened, man, it would have been so cool if I'd taken a picture of that, but I don't think like that. So Charleston runs up and she says, she goes, I'm going to go down the slide. I said, awesome. Let me video it, because the 2 guys that helped me put it together, I'm not going to say that our faith was tested or that we renounced God in any way, shape, or form, but we could see that from where we were. So let's play the video of her on the tube slide, the spinny one. So this is her. Yeah, pumped. Loving it.
I can do it my
Heaven.
time.
She is in heaven. Then she gets up on top, and I'm going back to trying to figure out where the 100 pieces in this box go to this play set. And I can't figure it out, and I'm going through the thing, and I'm looking, and she said, video me again, going down the slide. So she is not a daredevil in any way, shape, or form. Like, if there's any risk involved, she's out. So very much like me, to be honest. Like, I was the kid on the bike that going to hit the ramp, like I had to get the courage up and then do like the 3, 2, 1. I would do it like 10 times, and on the 11th time of 3, 2, 1, go, like I would just go. So she went down the slide, and I'll just leave it at that. You're okay, get up quick! She literally hit the ground. It was fantastic. She hit the ground, and I'm like, oh. All I'm thinking is, both of our families are coming over in about 10 minutes from there to celebrate her birthday. Oh, no. And then I thought, you know what? It's all about how we react. I get that. So I scream. I get excited. I yell. She literally, all she gets out is, I fell. I know, get up. Let's go. Go run. And then she gets up and runs. So I will say that is the first successful video that I've taken. Can we play it one more time just for funsies? Because, man, I laid in bed and watched it about 100 times. Woo-hoo! You okay? Get up quick! Boom, she's up, ready to go. Dust the knees off, let's hit it. Has not gotten on the slide again. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm like, hey baby, you wanna go on the slide again? She goes, no, it's not good for me. I'm like, not good for you? No, makes my tummy hurt. I'm like, no it doesn't. She goes, it's not good for me. It's not. I'm like, okay, you don't have to do it. So we now have a contraption at our house. No, here's how bad it is. They made a third story on this thing, and I'm thinking, do they not know kids? Like third story, crow's nest, who needs that? So the ladder is not to that, just so you guys know. We are very responsible parents. The ladder's not to that yet. So there's a lot going on in the Shear household. I did get good news, so she's having a party, and it is a bell party for Beauty and the Beast. And I did get word that I did not have to dress up. So that there is an answered prayer. That and a building, permanent building, are the two answered prayers that I had for this week. So we got a lot going on. Man, I'm excited for everything that is going on. It feels like I said, we're starting to get traction and things are starting to fall into place. So if you're not involved, get involved. It is a great time. And I want to encourage you to invite your friends next week. It's going to be just a fun time. We're going to have a little bit of a celebration, just a christening of the building. So I truly believe that it's a place that we can help people. And that is our heart. That has been our heart from the beginning, is just to help people. So let's jump in. We got week 2 of You Mad Bro? And I am excited for this series. And I said it last week, but we all deal with anger, but what is right and what is wrong, and how should we deal with it, and how we shouldn't deal with it, and what is good anger, what is bad anger, what is righteous, what is unrighteous, the whole thought process behind it. So last week we talked about the effects both on your physical body, on your mental state, when you handle anger incorrectly. How you handle it, how you exercise it or get it out, is we learned how that is, how there's justified or righteous anger, and then there's unjustified, and there's ways to handle it, and ways that are good and ways that are bad. And so tonight we're going to look at righteous anger, and it's anger that is justified for you to be angry. When is it justified to be angry? And we talked last week about how how the parts of the brain works, that they say that statistically the emotion of anger lasts for a total of 2 seconds. Of 2 seconds. So anything above that or longer than that is not beneficial to you in your physical body, but to you in a mental state or in a spiritual state either. That harboring that anger, all it does is boil up and fester things that don't need to be boiled up and festered, and things that are shown, cracks in your character, doors that are open are shown through that. So tonight we're going to talk about righteous anger. We're going to take a closer look at it. And these are things that would anger God and should anger us, because a lot of things that we get angry about, it's because someone has said something about us, or they've done something to us, or indirectly caused this feeling inside of us that is rage and anger, and how to deal with that and how we should deal with it and the ways to deal with it. But then what is righteous anger? What is it okay to be angry about? And this is what would anger God. So as we examine this type of anger, I hope that you see that our anger doesn't always line up with God and with His anger, whether it be righteous or justified. So as we look at this and we think, okay, well, what angers God? What grieves your spirit? God He only can act inside of His character. So what He is going to be angry about is righteous, that He is perfect, that He can do what the word says, that is the construction of his character, and that he operates in that character. So there is no way that we would ever look at that and think, okay, God had unjustified anger there, God was wrong here, but it's always holy, it's always just, and it's always right. So when we accept the fact, that also means that we know that whatever God does is right. But now, because anger and jealousy they frequently come up in the Word, it shows us how God and what he gets angry about, and then what we're supposed to do with that. The problem is that that's divine anger, and it's always righteous anger. But then the human anger and human jealousy is most of the time, it's more of a vice than a virtue. That it's most of the time unjustified instead of justified. So let's look at a few examples that speak directly to the core of what angers God. So this is what angers God. And we're going to dive in. I got just a few verses here. Romans 1:18. But God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Romans 2:5. But because you are stubborn and refuse to turn from your sin, you are storing up terrible punishment for yourself. For a day of anger is coming when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. Ephesians 5:6. Don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins, for the anger of God will fall on all who disobey him. So these verses clearly show that God's anger is stirred up when the actions of men go against his word and his will. So as we look at that, I mean, you see in both verses in Romans, it talks about the sinful nature and the sin of a man and not turning from that angers God. So it's hard, and as we look at, like when we looked at Daniel, there are ways that we can stand by our convictions, that we can be angry at things that anger God, we can be angry at sin, but we can still love people in the process. I think what's hard, and I feel like I've said it 100 times, but it's you can still disagree with someone and love them. You can not condone someone in what they're doing, but still love them. You don't have to condemn them and not love them. That how God responds, what angers God should anger us, and that is that the sin of the world, the sinful nature that man walks in, but doing it at a place of love that just looking at it, that we have God who has this righteous anger towards sin and the people that sin, but then he has unconditional love for them also. So both of those things, so when he's operating out of a place of that unconditional love, you're still standing by your convictions, you know what you know, you believe what you believe, and you're not going to waver from it, but you still can love people as well through that process. It's the exact same thing here. So this here, it's God is very loving and a forgiving God, and he's going to act according to his character. So therefore, if he made it possible for man to make his own decisions, then God must honor those decisions, even if it means that man will suffer his wrath. The things that anger God are things that goes against his word. So we have free will. He has given us the ability to make our own decisions, to pick, this door, how are you going to drive here today, and how you're going to react to something. We have that free will, but knowing that we are still a child of God, that unconditional love, and then what angers God in the process. So these things anger God because he, above all else, is a loving, compassionate God. And as we see from these verses, that it talks about the sinful, wicked people. That is not saying someone who has sinned, but it's sinful people. That's a lifestyle, that's who they are is the sinful and wicked. So it's not saying that because you've sinned or because you've done something wicked, then you're going to suffer the wrath of God. That's not the case, because he's the unconditional love and the forgiveness that he operates in gives us that ability to be able to, by his grace and by his mercy, not have to experience that wrath because of how we, or what we do and how we act. So the same mentality exists within Jesus. So let's look at these scriptures here, and this is what angered Jesus. I personally love reading stories about when Jesus gets angered because the word says that he never sinned. So we know that he's not sinning when he's doing it, but my man was not a pushover either. You know what I mean? Like, you want to think like you see the heavenly floating pictures and things like that, but it's Jesus knew what he knew. He had the knowledge of what he had, and he stood by it, that he wasn't wavering, and he got angry at things that grieved God. So let's look at it in Mark 3, verses 1 through 5. Jesus went into the synagogue again and noticed a man with a deformed hand. Since it was the Sabbath, Jesus' enemies watched him closely. If he healed the man's hand, they planned to accuse him of working on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the deformed hand, "Come and stand in front of everyone." Then he turned to his critics and asked, "Does the law permit good deeds on the Sabbath, or is it a day for doing evil? Is this a day to save life or to destroy it?" But they wouldn't answer him. What I love about this is he knew what they were already thinking, what the religious leaders in the synagogue were already thinking. And he saw the man with the deformed hand, and he didn't say, "Hey, come with me, we're going to go into the corner here, and I'm going to heal your hand, and then we'll go off like everything is normal." No, he made a point in breaking the mindset, the religious mindset that the spiritual and religious leaders of the time had. That's what I feel like, honestly, as the local church and the church in 2019 and in Tulsa, a lot of it is breaking the mindset of religion and past hurts and situations that you've been through and offenses that have formed this opinion of what church is and who Christians are and who pastors are and who people in leadership are and how they interact and how they conduct themselves and how they treat you. All of those things, that's what I feel like Jesus was doing here. That they were set in their ways and they knew that this is how I would imagine something like, well, we do that because that's what we've always done, is something that would be said in this moment. So he pulls the man in, sits him in front of everybody, and he literally tells him to come and stand in front of everybody. So nobody is not watching it, that everyone is watching it. And then back in verse 4, he turns to his critics and asks, "Does the law permit good deeds on the Sabbath, or is it a day for doing evil? Is it a day to save life or to destroy it?" But they wouldn't answer him. They wouldn't answer him because if they answered him, then they could not accuse him of doing something because they were condoning what he was doing if they were answering it. So they just sat there and they were quiet. Verse 5, he looked around at them angrily and was deeply saddened by their hard hearts. Then he said to the man, "Hold your hand out." So the man held out his hand, and it was restored. Jesus became angry because of the hardness of their hearts. Their demeanor and how they went about this whole scenario proved that their hearts were hardened, that they didn't want him to heal somebody because of a day that it was the week. Like we're supposed to pick and choose that, no, we can only help people on this day and not this day. And it shows the compassion and the level of compassion and where the compassion ranks with our Lord, with our Savior. That compassion is high on that list. And these leaders should have had plenty of a reason to come in and back Jesus because they'd seen everything that he's done. But yet there was that whole mindset of this is how it is. This is how it should be. That, well, it's like this because this is how we've always done it. No, you don't do anything on the Sabbath because that's the holy day, but he's the Son of Man. And in my opinion, the Son of Man the Son of God can do whatever he wants at that point. So in this, I look at it and I'm like, okay, you've seen everything that you saw as a religious leader. You'd think one of them at least had to jump on the bandwagon. And it's like, well, I've seen it, might as well be a part of it. But no, it's not the case, because their hearts were so hardened to this. So let's look at another example. John 2:14-17. In the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle and sheep and doves for sacrifices. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. Jesus made a whip with some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and the cattle, scattered the money changers' coins over the floor, and turned over their tables. Then, going over to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered the prophecy from the scriptures, "The passion for God's house will consume me." So in this, he saw that they came into the temple, a holy place, and they were turning it into personal gain. That they came in and they made this place where people were supposed to be able to come and give sacrifices and worship God, and yet there was this underlying personal gain theme. That not using the house of God for what it was supposed to be used for, and that angered Jesus. So he saw that his Father's house was being used for business. He became angry and drove the businessmen out of the temple. I love that he says he made a whip. Like, I imagine he's just like and starts grabbing things, and everyone then got out. That is anger, but it was righteous and justified because it was against the Father. Because it was against God and against God's will. So he drove them out, and he became angry because of the apathy of the people towards this place of God. That the apathy that they had towards the temple is what angered Jesus. So we're seeing a theme with what angers God and what angers Jesus is when it goes against God or his will and his word. He offered compassion, but yet still stood by what he needed to stand by and what he knew to be right. So knowing that, let's look at the examples of man's anger that is righteous. So justified anger by man. And again, we're seeing the theme that sin against God and the mistreatment of others is a common theme. And how we treat people, and then sins against God are angering and justified angers. So I've given you the examples of things that anger God, that anger Jesus, and those are still true today. So things that God and Jesus got angry over, we should also be angry about. When you consider this anger, they got angry over issues that were relating to our relationship with God and our relationships with others. Because we are the light, we are the hope, and how we treat people and how people see us treating God matters. So when you're it's all about the relationship with God and the relationship with other people. So in Numbers 16, and it's all of chapter 16, so I'm just going to give you a rundown of it. So Moses they were headed into the promised land, and it was taking some time, and three guys essentially created a revolt against Moses and against God. And they had set up a coup of Moses, and they were not worshiping God how they should have. They weren't bringing sacrifices in. And this is Old Testament, so I just want to make that clear. But they're bringing in sacrifices, and they were mistreating what they had. Moses came down, saw this, became very angry by it, called them to come meet with him. They said, "There's not a chance that we're going to come meet with you." And they disobeyed the order. So at this point, they were disobeying the man of God. The man of God had a request, and they did not fulfill that request. So later on, and this just shows the Old Testament wrath of God. I love that it says that at this point, Moses basically stood out and he said, if they're not going to die of natural causes or by man's hand, because if that were the case, then it would happen. and you wouldn't be able to see the power of God and that I'm sent by God. So literally, I think it's verse 33, it says that the earth opens up and swallows them and all of their possessions. So we see that God takes this very serious. So let's go to the New Testament real quick, and that's Galatians 2, 11 through 14. And this is Paul writing, verse 11. But when Peter came to Antioch, I had to oppose him to his face, for what he did was very wrong. When he first arrived, he ate with the Gentile believers who were not circumcised. But afterward, when some friends of James came, Peter would not eat with the Gentiles anymore. He was afraid of criticism from these people who insisted on the necessity of circumcision. So basically in this time and what Jesus came in is there were what separated the clean and the unclean and the just and the unjust was circumcision. Well, when Jesus came in, that all went away. So it wasn't out of bounds for Peter to be eating with the Gentiles. But then it says when friends of James came, that he basically just pushed them away, didn't associate with them at all, didn't even speak to them, because he was afraid of how the Jewish people would react to him eating with the Gentiles. Verse 13, as a result, other Jewish believers followed Peter's hypocrisy, and even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy. When I saw that they were not following the truth of the gospel message, I said to Peter in front of all of the others, since you, a Jew by birth, have discarded the Jewish laws and are living like a Gentile, why are you now trying to make these Gentiles follow the Jewish tradition? So Paul got angry with Peter, and he came in and addressed the situation quickly. I think something that we pass over through this story a lot of the time is when it says, I had to oppose him to his face. That he went and addressed the situation, that he was angered by someone and went and addressed the situation. He didn't go to his buddies and tell them what he was going to do and then work his way around it and then the next week get to him and talk to him. No, he went and addressed the situation. I think that is a good word for whoever in here is dealing with past anger or they're harboring anger towards someone and the other person doesn't even know that you haven't forgiven them. Go to them, tell them, talk to them. It's amazing the relationship that can be formed around something like that. Someone that you did not like because of whatever reason, that you sit down, talk, and then you see how God can work. I mean, it really is amazing. Josh, for instance, I would say it was probably 3 or 4 years that we didn't like each other. Honestly, we didn't like each other. And I don't know if I knew why. I'm sure he does, but it was me, honestly. I'll be honest, but I'm going to assume that it's me, and it's a healthy assumption. But it was probably a year ago, I called him into one of the rooms at Guts, and we just started talking, and we've been friends since. And we addressed whatever situation was in there. Now, what we addressed is for me and him. But now coming out of that, there's a friendship involved, and a lifelong friendship. He's here every week when he doesn't have to be. But we sat in a room and talked, and you see each other's heart when you sit and talk. You put a face with it. You can't villainize someone who's sitting right in front of you. That you can just have that conversation and deal with whatever needs to be dealt with. Because in all reality, most of the times, they don't know. But Paul in this moment, his anger was a righteous anger because of how Peter was mistreating the Gentiles. It's all about our relationship with God and people. You can't love God and love people. Sorry, you can't not love God and love people. You can love God and love people. It's the only way you can do either. But you can't love people and not love God. Truly, truly love people. People are hurting. People need help. People are going through life and they have no idea what their next step is. They have no hope. They have things that they've been dealing with for way too long that they don't have to deal with anymore. That's grace. You can't earn it. So at some point, it's on you to deal with whatever you need to deal with so you can start moving forward. Because the last thing we want is for you to look back and think, I'm dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with last year, with the year before, with the year before. At some point, it's going to break out. If I get a new job, I'm all of a sudden going to be a hard worker, a valued employee, if I just get a new job. Well, if I get a new house, it'll fix everything. If I find a husband or a wife, that will really fix it. Here's my favorite part, when married couples say, you know what? When we have a kid, it's going to fix everything. I can promise you it's not. It is only going to magnify whatever issue you have. Because when it comes down to it, you have to fix you. That's the hard part. We can't control other people. We're not responsible for other people. Like we talked about last week with Cain and Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? No. You deal with you. You can only fix you. I can't come in and fix Nathan. I can't come in and fix Evan. What? Are you crazy? I'm dealing with my own things. So why would I assume that I can fix them? No, but I can lead them to the one who can. I can lead them into the presence of God so they can truly feel that restoration. Here's the hard part. Most of it is hurt. Literally, hurt is causing your life to be in shambles. Forgive the other person. 100 out of 100 times they have no idea that they've done anything to offend you, anything to anger you. It's not keeping them up at night, but it is you. It's not keeping them from that promotion, it's keeping you. It's not keeping them from happiness, it's keeping you from happiness, from joy, true joy. Find that breakthrough. At some point, you're going to have to deal with it. It might as well be now. Because again, you don't want to look back and think, man, I'm still dealing. We all have friends, and I have friends that I went to high school with, to college with, and they're still doing the same stuff that they were doing in high school and college, still dealing with the same issues that they were dealing with in high school and college. And I'm thinking, we have passed our 10-year reunion at this point. You're still dealing with the same stuff you were dealing with in 2004. What makes you think it's going to change because you got a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, a new house, a new car, a new job? Oh, I just need new friends. You know what? You probably do. But that's not going to fix your issues. People are flawed. They are going to hurt us. They are going to let us down. I love my wife with everything in me. I let her down constantly. It is... Thank you, Jesus. Not so emphatic on the yes. But no, it's I've said multiple times, especially early in marriage, I'm like, hey, honey, I'm not like making these decisions to purposefully piss you off. You know that, right? Like, I'm not putting the trash bag back into the trash can just to make you mad. Sometimes I forget. I'm sorry. There's like 18 steps. That's my bad. I forgot. But it's not on purpose. People are flawed. I am flawed. I am going to let her down. So is it fair for her to hold that against me? For her not to take the next step in life? For her not to find true joy? For her not to find breakthrough to make our house a peaceful place because of me? No. It's with her. It's with me. It's with you. You're the only one that's in control of you. I'm sorry what your dad said to you when you were a kid. I really am. I promise you, if your dad knew, he would also be sorry. But don't hold that over you. I know what he said about you, but let me tell you what your Heavenly Father says about you. Quit letting things hold you back any longer. It's not worth it. Life's too short. It's but a vapor. My daughter is 3. I used to be cool. And then something happened. And I bump Baby Shark in my car now. And loud. What has happened to me? I don't know who most of the new rap are. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm the old guy going, what's he saying? Like, I used to make fun of these guys. Now it's me. But what if I'm still dealing with the same issue back then? It doesn't make sense. And then at some point you want to take the next step in life. I would imagine, get married, have kids. Why would you want that to come into your home? Why would you want your kid to deal with the same thing that you dealt with because you didn't get past it? There's a personal responsibility to this life. Quit putting it on everybody else. It's not their fault. Did they do it? Yes, but it's not their fault. Deal with it and move on. Oh, woe is me. That doesn't work. Why? Because we all have access to the Father. We all have access to that breakthrough power, that suddenly power of Jesus. But that's on you and nobody else. So if stuff starts to anger you, you're allowed to be angry for 2 seconds. 2. 1, 2. Done. And then how you deal with that. Last week, anger in, anger out, and anger controlled. Anger in, that's bad. That's the worst. Most guys, that's us. I've learned I'm not a guy who is in touch with my emotions. I've learned that, and I'm good with it. I think I've cried like 4 times since we've been married. First time my wife saw me cry was because we had to put a dog down. I know. That was it. Nothing else. Her walking down the aisle, not a tear. I was very stone cold. That doesn't make her question anything, I hope. But no, we had to put our dog down. I'm like, it's done. I don't know what to do. It's not good. It's not. But I understand I'm not in touch with my emotions, and I get that. And I've realized that I'm not in touch with my emotions because it is not efficient. It doesn't get me to the next step, and that's how guys think. It's unnecessary at this point. Now, Cass is so in touch with her emotions that sometimes it makes me nauseous. A good touching commercial comes on. Boom, waterworks. I'm like, most of the time now I video it because it's so entertaining for me. I wish I had the picture of when we're on an airplane, packed airplane, bawling, watching a movie. I'm like, I don't know who this person is, but she needs to get under control, whoever that is. But no, it's understand, and I say all of that for you have to be in touch with your emotions. You have to have an understanding of what those are. Because if you let that anger harbor inside of you, it's only hurting you. Anger out isn't good either. Not to mention it kills your witness. Not to mention it could completely deter someone from ever listening to a word you say. Not to mention you're going to break things when you do that. But it's the anger controlled. It's justified anger in life. And then what do you do with that anger? It's all out of a place of love. If it's out of a place of love, they can be upset by it, but they can't be mad at it. You're doing it in a place of love and you do it right, it's easy. It's only hard when you have to do it, and then who knows what's coming from the end of that?